Subliminal messaging is basically embedding a message that is just below the threshold of conscious level. It can be done in advertising, it can be done in public relations, and several different other activities.
What this means is that the person will not be consciously aware of what they had just seen. And as far as the question of whether that has any impact or not, that has been a little bit of a debate, but it seems that for the most part it doesn't really have any kind of lasting effects on behavior.
I read about it, and I guess back in the 1950s people first started challenging the idea of it, and then there were actually some court cases later on in the 70s and even into the 80s about subliminal messages in music. But I think it's more like it's starting probably in the 80s. People started paying attention to the idea of what advertising is doing to us, and that's basically what it is. You're just trying to convince somebody, or at least in the case of something like popcorn and soda in a movie theater, you're trying to convince someone that they need to buy something, that they want something.
In 1957, some movie theaters decided to experiment with subliminal messaging. The movie theaters had Coca-Cola and popcorn messages secretly hidden throughout their movies. The message appeared so fast that no one noticed them. However, the marketing firm responsible stated that popcorn and Coca-Cola sales increased dramatically because of the subliminal messages.
I think a lot of it was that Vickery experiment with the movie theaters, and then in the 1960s and 70s there was a lot of debate about this because people were trying the technique out.
I seem to remember in movies you could actually, if you paid close attention, you could see them pop up the popcorn or the soda bottle. I don't know that anybody was conscious that it was happening, but I think that certainly you sensed it, although if you think about it, if you're in a movie theater, you probably are already thinking about popcorn and soda. So I don't know if you could officially say they were kind of forcing it on us by putting those messages there, but they definitely, they were there. So we all got popcorn and soda.
A focus group gathered to speak about subliminal messaging and came to the conclusion that product placement is a major aspect. However, even though product placement is strategically planned, Dr. Nunley explained the difference between the two.
A lot of people confuse subliminal messaging with other techniques. For instance, we can embed a message within a film. We could have the stars in the film consume certain products, and so that's called product placement. And so that's not quite subliminal messaging. Subliminal messaging would again mean that you're putting the message just below the threshold of what the user is aware of.
A small study was conducted near midday to test the idea of subliminal messaging when it comes to food. The purpose was to see if the test subjects would be more attracted to the images with subliminal messaging. The test subjects were asked to choose the top 3 images that appealed to them the most without any knowledge about what the experiment was about. Only 2 of the subjects that were tested stated they were not hungry at the time of the experiment. However, only 1 test subject selected 3 full meals without any subliminal message attached. The images that contained subliminal messaging were the Burger King product, which had the inappropriate image and inappropriate language, the Skittles product, which had the word sex hidden in the front image, and the Coca-Cola product, which had an inappropriate image embedded in one of the ice cubes. 5 of the subjects selected chose the Skittles because they said it was pretty or it was something they would normally eat. The other 2 images were chosen twice by the test subjects because they either looked refreshing or because they liked the brand. Otherwise, the most popular images were the ones that resembled a home-cooked meal or something that was cheap. Therefore, there's no conclusive evidence that subliminal messaging would force someone to choose something they would normally not eat.
If you're already thirsty, then me embedding a message about, let's say, Coke or Pepsi or whatever, will influence your choice between Coke or Pepsi. But if you're not already thirsty or don't already want a beverage, I could put the message in and it means is meaningless to you.
Subliminal advertising is not enough to kind of compel you to do things that you don't want to do. Anything that it does have an effect, it may cause you to become more aware, or may kind of activate in your mind an existing preference that's already there. So it's kind of like hypnosis in that way. You can't really be hypnotized against your will. Same kind of idea here with subliminal advertising. It's not going to implant a preference in your mind that doesn't exist.
I think there's other things that are less ethical in professions than in the communication professions than subliminal messaging. But like I said, I think it depends on how people view subliminal messaging.
I think a better approach would be to have people be more thoughtful and educated about it. I mean, the idea of teaching your children that, don't pick out the cereal box that has all the happy little creatures on it just because it has pretty colors in the front doesn't make it a good cereal. Or I think it's the kind of thing that people should be somewhat responsible for educating themselves and thinking it through. Because you can't say anyone forced you to buy an iPod. You can say, sure, they influenced me, or they encouraged me, or the culture makes it feel like it's necessary. But at the end of the day, you have to hold people responsible at some level for making decisions like that.